We're speaking today about, what do we say, sensation and emotions. Help me a little bit. We have here today solche apples, bodna, right? Bachna. And sounds the same thing, sensations, emotions, feelings. Actually, as long as the person doesn't get straight, well, who's negative, who's against who, it just gets messed up. We say Chazal says, Ayin roya, lev choymed, masa yudav gomer. Your eye sees something, then your heart choymed, how do you say that? Desires, and klei masa gomer. That means who started up? The hands, the feelings, or is the sensation? I see something is a sensation. We call it in Hebrew, it's called tחושות, ורגשות. תחושות, a person has, we call them big, we have 5 sensations. It's hearing, seeing, taste, touching. What else? Smell. 5 sensations a person has. Which actually, as long as he doesn't give an explanation for those 5, he's okay. Problem is, once he starts giving an explanation to those 5, that's when he starts getting messed up. 1 second. That means by the time a person, Baal Shem Tov Kodesh says, all the tchushot, we'll call it sensations, senses, are a nitzitz of HaKadosh Baruch Hu talking to you. That is the way he's that's the kind of phone. You don't hear it talking, but there's all kinds of signals that are turned into words. So the signal from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is called a nitzitz, the chiyas of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, hits the person as a sensation. Seeing, listening, whatever. He feels a sensation. As long as the sensation is there, he has a way to connect. When a person has no more sensations, he has no way to connect. Things can go by him if he didn't notice. That is autism, I think it is. It's more emotion, but it's altogether. That means once a person is numb, we said it we saw it in the corona, people stopped smelling, tasting. So that's a big part of the life that because Baruch Hu connects with us. We say the biggest thing that the neshama, the hannes, has a nerve from it, is smelling. The sumim is something that the neshama has a know without the body. The sensations actually come from the body. It says the Busha that the Chazal say, Ayin roya, once you see something, what happens? If you stop it, we'll say how you stop it. If you don't stop it, then automatically it's lev choymet. How does lev choymet happen? How does lev choymet happen? Lev choymet happens through that you start using your thoughts. Once a person starts figuring out what is that I'm feeling, what is that sensation, and he wants it to make sense. So then, if it's a positive sensation, we get the positive ways. If it's a negative sensation, we get the negative conclusions. And from there on, he's stuck.
Rebbe,
Yeah.
Rebbe, when you say sensations, it's feelings. Is that what you mean? Feelings?
Okay, so we were talking about it before you came up. You can feel a sensation and you can feel an emotion. It's two things. Sensations comes from the body. Emotions comes from your thoughts. That means first comes sensation. You get up in the morning and you feel something's wrong today. You don't, but it's a sensation. It's not an emotion. But the more you're going to lay in bed, the more you're going to start trying to figure out what that sensation is. And then your emotions come, and then people just can't go out in the door that day. So you have it here in Israel. It was a whole year whenever a siren, how do you call it, alarm went off. So the Rebbe always said, well, you take the sensation of hearing something that can frighten you, and you give it back to Boishler. We'll explain that soon too. And then actually you gave it back to the one that gave you the sensation. But once you never learned how to turn over sensations to Kesher Boira, and you start working out who is it, what is it, what's going on, what, when, where, why, so you mess up the sensation, Shalom Aleichem. You mess up the sensation to an emotion. And once it's emotion, it's such a big fire, you don't know how to put it out, just like in Los Angeles, they don't know how to put out the fire. That means the fire starts off in a match. First match, that is a sensation. That sensation when you hear someone telling you something, some word you don't like to hear it, and it turns you on. So you can just put it off right away. How? It's good. It's a bunch of them. Ain't on the Zeichen is born. Nobody can do anything about the bunch of them. And if he's the messenger of the bunch of them, it's just a message of the king. This is thoughts. This is actually we're working it out, but you have to decide from where it comes from. That means once you decide, you go into emuna. Emuna gives you the koach later to turn it into kesher boira, connection. But if you try to work it out yourself, you don't know which direction you're going. So until you figure out the direction, your body is going to take it the direction, not the emuna. So yeah.
I'm just from the sensation from your body is not from you though, like
it's right? not from
you. It's not like that first initial.
Right. That's called
you're hungry.
That's called yitzvah she'udam is gabrula v'kadosh baruch hu oizvah. Every time you get a sensation, HaKadosh Baruch Hu helps you to be connected to Him. Now, what are you going to do with that sensation? Yetzah is called also, how do you color it? Sayah. So if you Yetzah Toiv, that's when you bring it to a Milna, then you're coloring it positive to connection. But if you're trying to figure it out, so who's one that's figuring it out? It's your mind, but your emotions start start working. What type of emotion we're going to use with this, and then you lost it already. That means the same.
So is there good emotions that you have to work?
That makes it good emotions can bring me to Gava. Bad emotions can bring me to Yush. The good senses can bring me to. If I don't stop it, it'll get me to Gava. Negative emotions can get me to Yush. We call it in Busha calls it. All your ush or efkerut. But we have to do something with those senses. If you don't give it back to the one that gave you the senses, and you don't connect with that, automatically you start thinking about it. That's where you mess up. Because ayin, there's a Kobrina says, the Torah tells us lo yisasiri achei levavchem va'achei enechem. So Torah says, doesn't say don't look, don't think. Torah says lo yisasiri. Siri can also mean opening up your connection, tying up your connect. That means you're opening up the tie. That means you're bounded, you're connected to the Banishlim. When that emotion comes, it either connects you even more, or it can disconnect you. The tatura, that means lahatir, liftach, to open up that knot. That means when a person sees something, I can't. Why did you see? I saw it. A person thinks something, you cannot say, why did you think about it? The Torah says, lo yisasiri, don't let those emotions running Achre levavchem, which are emotions, achre einechem, when you see something, don't let it disconnect you. That's called necessary. That means, ayin roya, lev choimet, masiyud of gomem, that is because you saw something in an emotion. It can be a good thing, a bad thing, makes no difference. Then you start trying to work it out, and then you fall. So what am I going to do anything that I see? So here comes the catch. When a person sees something, actually connection to the Baruch comes to you in a form of energy. Every time a person sees something, it's a type of energy that the question is how I'm going to use that energy. Now, energy, you all know, you take out the energy from the ground, whatever it is in the ocean, it comes usually raw, how do you call it?
Raw.
Raw. Comes out crude, what is it? Comes out very crude, yeah. And from that crude oil...
Close to home.
Huh?
Close to home.
And that crude oil is the question how much patience you have to work it out. That the more you work it out, the more you're going to get. We have at the gas station, you have 87, 80, 95. Unleaded.
Refined
So
gas,
the more you're refining it, the more you're filtering it, the more you're going to get. If you don't filter it, you take out that crude oil and put it into your car, you have no car anymore. That means every time a Kodesh Baruch Hu gives us energy, that means every time we have a sensation, there's energy coming down. That energy comes down very crude. It comes down very raw. And there's everything in there. And when the body has to explain it, and the more he has no explanation, the more you mess it up. So then, whatever you're gonna say, whatever you're gonna do, whatever you're gonna think, just mess it up. We go further, so it's enough for tonight.
So Rebbe, so in that like space or in that room that you are right now.
So that's what we're talking about.
Disconnecting.
That's what we're talking about.
Disconnecting and just connecting to Hashem.
There is no connecting either. There's nothing there. That minute, that's what the Bush is talking about, the meal. We're talking about the last year. What is the meal? The Bush called it savlanut. Every time a person comes to a certain sensation, if he gives that the meal, and he gives the patience, the savlanut, that is actually filtering the refining the energy to 98 or to engine to a jet is 100, I think. I say. But anyways, but it's refining your energy. So you cannot use it right away.
So there's no betachan in there. There's no. The
betachan is one thing that you're sure that you're not sure, and the mele you have need a bunch time to refine it. I can't refine it either. That's the betachan that I have. That means if he gives it to me, he's actually giving me something positive, something to build my. How did you recognize a person? You recognize a person b'kisai, b'koisai, and b'kasai. Either kisai, how can he's able to spend money, or he's spending too much money. Koisai, if he's able to control eating, or he's eating too much. And kasai, if he's able to control his anger, or he gives it out. So as the Bush says, let's go to koisai. An animal has a sensation, has a sense that it becomes hungry. What does the animal do when it becomes hungry? When it becomes hungry, so it's usually the same time every day, twice a day, 5:30 in the afternoon, I think 5:30 in the morning, which comes we're talking about. And then, even though he's out there in the field, he has a sense, he knows where to go to the house, he knows the exact place where he's standing and eating his food. He'll eat only as much food as he needs, and he stops. A human being, when he gets that sensation of hungry, well, he goes all the way down right away and grabs some chips and and junk food and fills it up and stuffs it up. So he shouldn't be hungry even a second. But the more a person will go into the meal when he's hungry, then automatically that's refining what you need. And by the time you sit down, you have your meal that you need, and you're there in that meal. That means if a person learns without the v'toyres, that means Torah means you're connected to the B'nai when you're eating it with all your emotions. That actually gives you oichel kimmel. He eats a little bit in this buach and he gets satisfied. But if a person is trying to eat directly, he gets a kitzel, Busha used to call it. Something tickles him, and he feels as he must take something. The more he gives, the more he surrenders his tickling to his senses, the more he's going to eat, and the more he's not going to be satisfied. And the more you give the more you give the sablanut, the more the tickling will bother you, the more you'll have time to the sablanut, and the more you'll be able to bring it back. That means, Busha says, everybody must have a sensation. Everybody must have something, because that is the connection to the B'nai Shlem, says the Baal Shem Tov. The question is, how long does it take you till you chap the mahalach? It's not going to thoughts and emotions and mess it up. And how high is the volume of that sensation when it tickles you? How does it get you off balance? That means every time that you have, if a person doesn't wait for the emotions to come up, when that sensation comes up, we'll call it the tchushot, we call it in Hebrew, or the sensation, we call it in English. That when that comes up, actually, Yuda Shor Kanehu, he has no motions whatsoever. He has no thought whatsoever. He doesn't get messed up. The same thing with us. We cannot say a person doesn't have thoughts. We cannot say a person doesn't have emotions. But avoid from the person is to give the achnua and to recognize the danger of that the Kodesh Baruch Hu gave him from one side thoughts and gave him emotions, which he must control it and take the patience till he works it out to get something positive. So the more you stand in that danger, Busha calls it the sakuna, that you might disconnect from those, instead of connecting, you might disconnect from those sensations. Then you're gonna go into a thought until you don't feel the Yishuv Adas comes back. I said an example, just like a person has to go over a street. If it's a street that's running cars and you run over, it's very dangerous. But there is a way how to cross a road. It's a pedestrian walk, you call it. It's pedestrian walk. No,
crosswalk.
Crosswalk. Okay, it's a crosswalk. You can walk over, but if there's no lights there, doesn't mean you can jump into the road and say you must look right and left, right and left. So every time a Kodesh Baruch Hu reaches out to you, you're able to connect to him. It's like a crosswalk that you can connect, but you have to see if your emotions ain't gonna start jumping around. So might as well wait till it calms down and there's no cars coming, then you can go up. So where's the first fall of the person? Well, Tanya says the first fall that a person falls down is actually when they come up emotion. If it comes up in negative way, positive, makes no difference. And a person says, oops, he lost it. But if a person knows when the emotion comes up, it could be the worst emotion, gneva, gzela, kineh, tav, kuvit, it's all emotions, but when it comes up, I have to know I can turn into Kines Hashem Tzavukos, I can turn into Kuvit Zihi Chavod Hashem, I can turn into Tavat Tzavahaftos Hashem. The question is how much savlanut you have and how much you're ready to live with the awareness that you're in the danger, and you have to give the time to work it out. There's a big tzaddik which is called the Rosler Rufus, the Shiur Rebbe. It says when somebody gets me angry, So he said, it's okay, it's a terrible thing, but I'll answer back tomorrow, not today. What is tomorrow? What tomorrow's going to run away? Tomorrow won't be with those emotions. I'll be able to, by the time, to refine it and use what I have to say rightly and on time, and I won't forget it. Write it down. Don't forget it, but the emotions won't. But by that time, you see, you didn't exactly think, and was what you thought. And when you put in your understandings, when that sense comes to the emotions, that brings an explosion.
But the Rebbe mentioned that the Savlanut is also from the Rebbe.
How's the weather in Canada today? It's snowing. How's the weather there?
Yeah, the sun is shining, but there's always we see snow all the time. Yeah.
What are you asking?
But the Rebbe said that the Savlanut, the patient, also comes from the Rebbe, right?
Yeah, the Savlanut comes from the There's five. Sorry, there's a Manganon Hagana. You call it
defense mechanism.
Defense mechanism, yeah.
Coping
Mechanism. I'm learning some English. Coping mechanism. Every time something comes up, we as human beings, not only human beings, the Chayes also have that sense of a coping mechanism. Coping mechanism is something without thought. It works automatically. It's there.
The instinct.
Well, it's an instinct, and it's there for everything. We're talking about sensations, it's instincts. That means it's there for you to help you keep going. The only difference is between a human being and an animal is an animal, when he has an instinct, you get him wild, he's not getting wild because of emotions. He's getting wild because it's a coping mechanism. But when you get wild, it doesn't mean that it's stuff a coping mechanism. It's just you didn't work it out. You messed it up with your understanding, and stoist with the feet and stop with the cup. That means the more you work it out something, it's just as I said before, you can take that same energy and work yourself through to be a udam. The Busha calls it like this, because he created us an energy, and we have to work it out to be a udam. Energy is called a weakness, a fehlehaftige, anush. Anush means chasar onim, helpless person. That's called anush. We have to work it out to udam. That's what the Maluchim told to the Banishlim. Mu energy kisis gerani. Once you got it wrong, leave it here by the Maluchim. We don't have no emotions. So whatever you say is done, and it's over. Done and over. They call it in English, I think. But for a human being, until this can be done and over, it can take sometimes weeks and years. In Yiddish, they say, you come to the age of 70, you didn't get anywhere. Because the Busha says, has hatanic even for one breath that you can understand your 70 years, connect yourself to the Baruch Shalom, is worth the whole investment that he invested in this world. There's this famous story. There's one of the Talmidim, one of the tzaddikim, the Kaliska was in Tveria, and he met somebody korrecting. He said, "What are you correcting?" I don't know. But to believe me, to put on film today, the way you put it on film, with all your baggage, that you put it on, it was also kedai for Bansham to create the world for this second. So let's get back where we started off. So, if a person has to know, the faster he'll take the senses, or you call it the instinct, you call it something else, the feelings you call it. It's all feelings, emotions are feelings, and sensations are feelings. The faster you can take that sensation or that instinct and know Hashem, Shematu, Hashem, Shemachu, Shemati, Raisi, the more you're going to turn it into it's from you, then you'll be able to give it in and I cannot I cannot understand you. There's no way. As long as I'm goof, I won't understand you, because this sensation comes in body, doesn't come in understanding. If I can't get to your vadani, so the more you're going to give the patience, you're refining it, because even in the Torahs of coping mechanism says the coping mechanism is only takes 12 minutes. It's something called in the amygdala in the front of the head, which works automatically. But the more you wait, the more it goes down, and then the back of your head where the machshuvas start flowing in a yeshiv adas way. So that means we must have that yeshiv adas. So all the measurement that we have is every time a sensation comes, whatever you're going to think about it, as long as you're not working with it, you never worked with it, it'll always get messed up. We should call it machshuva shoinem is yetzer hara. Why? Because the working out, who's working it out? The lev choimed. The lev is working it out. When lev works out, the lev is a goof or it's something spiritual. It's both, but it's mainly a goof. And since the lev is a body, so when he starts working it out, he's working out what's good for the body. And then he wants fast answers, quick food, quick answers, quick everything. The plane goes late 5 minutes and he's he loses it, he gets off the plane, ain't going with this airline anymore. Yeah, that means that why? Because he went into emotional turbulence because he was trying to understand his feeling, and he doesn't want to stand on that feeling because he doesn't know how choshev that feeling of the sensation gives him connection to the. And once it quiets, so the whole world is actually investing to give people sense of feeling fine, so they give them all kinds of lights and smells, and as long as you shouldn't have worked too hard to calm himself down.
Fight and freeze in those first few minutes. Fight, flight, and freeze.
Fight, flight, freeze. Right. That's the first 12 minutes.
Maybe according to the feeling, the power of the feeling is the opportunity to connect that, or like whatever the issue is.
Senses, I will call it senses. We must put it. We have called senses and emotions, right? Sometimes what you feel first is a sense. But if you start explaining what you're feeling, then it turns into emotions.
So let's say you could have a feeling that's very overwhelming, and is that because that's the energy that Hashem could give you?
Right. But the question is how much. There's a famous story, I think I told you, that the Belzeruf was running away from the Nazis to Budapest. It was on Friday night, and the whole plan. And suddenly, in the middle of the way, he told the driver to stop. Got out of the car, sit down on the side road on the rock for a few minutes. It was long minutes, and they all thought it was pachad. And then he came back and said, "We can go further." Later years, he met a Spinka Rebbe here in Eretz. And he told him the story. I was running away from the Nazis, but I felt I'm losing my mind. But if I'm losing my mind, then I'm not there anyways. So it makes no difference who's going to catch me, if it's the Nazis or I threw myself off a cliff. That means, but when I give the time, the Yishuv Adas, he sat down on that rock for a few minutes, felt his mother comes back, and that's when he was continued. Also with the Briskub, they say the same thing. That he had to go by the border, right? And suddenly his heart stopped clapping there. So he says, "Well, we're all busy here with our thoughts. The Balagula is less, we more. The only one that's not thinking anything is the horse." That means, he said, Ein oid mulvada. That's called Ein oid mulvada. A person has a hard work of Ein oid mulvada. That's actually Ein oid mulvada. So we should call it close your mind. before you start using what's actually you're into, what do you want from you, first close this got amor, used to call it. That means go into doimio. Doimio means silence, because the Pusik says l'chu, doimio, tehelu. So as long as you're going to try without the miyu, you're in ani, you're not in l'chu. Ani, you're busy with your understanding. So might as well don't think, not of l'chu, not of ani, just think, don't think of anything. Then automatically the ani, the corrosion of the ani becomes quiet, that the coping mechanism becomes quiet. Then the l'chu comes up. That is tehillah. That's the biggest shvach that a Yid can give to the Rebbeinu Shalom. He calls it the Mo'anaim calls it, we have to come to, in order to connect to the Rebbeinu Shalom, we have to come to a space of lesle migamei klum, that I cannot do now anything. So once a person is ready for that, and the view shows up a thought of less asar panui menei. There's no such place that the Kodesh Baruch is not there. So once I decide that Rebbeinu Shalom is there, so what does he want? I also go to the Milna, less machshuva tvisa by. So first you go into calmness. Once you calmed everything down, then you're able to use what you're able to use, and you don't use what you're not able to use, according to Yeshua das.
But sometimes when it comes at the meal, the person can be quiet, but inside he's still angry. Right. He's not giving out his emotions. Right. He's doing the meal, but not in the right way. Right. He's not accepting the situation.
So that's why I say first you have to check if you were eating that. If you're not hungry, you're not tired. I'm sorry if you use the toilet today. These things have to be checked out first, because if a person's hungry, or he's look not comfortable, he's nas, he's hingrig, whatever. So that means when you're in a place it's a little hard to do it. You can do it then too, but it's much harder. That means once you check it out, and the best place is to do it usually is what you call the feld. That means you go into his brothers. When you go into his brothers, so actually you're taking away all the outer disturbances that you have. So when a person is with himself, they say a mother was busy putting the children to sleep, and she felt she can't make it. She went into the room and locked the door. The children start knocking the door. Mommy. She says, 1 second, I'm bringing you a new mommy. That means that we must do that. The Buddha says the fuch is 20, half an hour a day, if not once a week, every Thursday night. That's where he used to start it off. The more a person does in his body, this is bonus, and the savlanut. So Kodesh Baruch gave us automatically. We must go davening. The question is, what do you do? Why are you davening for? We spoke already long ago. There's to do and there's to be. The people go davening to do, so there's no to be. When we're talking about savlanut, we're talking to be connected to yourself. We have davening, we have Shabbos, we have singing, we have mikveh, and we have the felder that we go out to his body. A person must use these times, because a person, if he's only, even the Shabbos he's to do, and the davening is to do, and the mikveh, he's just platching around there and going in and out, and he's not talking the news, what's today. He doesn't. I mean, he did the act technically, but he didn't do it to what he has to bring to him. That's a yid.
Maybe the danger of disconnecting is that whatever you need or whatever the pressure is that once you're disconnected from Hashem, then you're disconnected, and then Yeshua or whatever you're actually seeking is farther away from you to begin with, because the original purpose of it was for Hashem. He wanted to get you closer to him.
I'll explain it to you more. I'll explain it to you a little better. Baal Shem Tov Kodesh says, by the time the sensation reaches you, as I said before, it comes messed up already. That it doesn't mean exactly what I feel is that what's wanted from me. And that's number one. Number two, by the time it comes to me, it comes in a sensation either of positive, either of negative. which is called the Havu, Gvira, Tveres, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchus, it comes in a certain way, which is either positive, either negative. But a person, when he's in a certain midah, in a certain, what's it, midah? Emotion.
State.
What?
Certain state.
Emotions comes from midas. That means when a Havu wakes up in a person, if it's
character traits,
when that character traits comes up, then you always have to combine Ahava with Yira together. That means if Ahava works on its own without Yira, then it's Ishki Kechachoyse Chesed. But if Yira works without Ahava, then he gets stuck. But a person, with the time it comes to me, it's already disconnected, only Ahava, only Yira. The only way it can be controlled and balanced is a bunch that can balance it. But so with the minute I take it from where it comes from, then the balancing happens. Because Bochum makes that balancing. But if I'm trying to work on it on my own, a person doesn't have the koach to balance it. Or it's schlepping in the positive direction, or it's schlepping in the negative direction. Das verstehen Sie gesagt?
So, Rebbe, let's say, for example, somebody needs a shidduch, or somebody needs to pay his mortgage, something like that, and fear comes up because he can't, or he doesn't. So how does that...
So let's talk about mortgage. Mortgage, let's talk about shadichim. We learned last week, 3 things that Kodesh Baruch Hu left himself. Is panusa, shadichim, and children. He takes care of it all on his own. That means that he takes care of the house. How does he give money? He puts money into the bank, or he gives you a connection, how to connect to him, and he opens up a pipe, a line, that whatever you need, you're going to get. So we need it in a material way, but you need a pipe to get it in a material way. You need a connection. As I say, these days, everybody can have a telephone, can have a computer, can have whatever he has, but if he has no Wi-Fi, it's nothing worth. That means people are so nervous today to get that place where there's a Wi-Fi. But again, the minute you have that connection, then you can order a whole supermarket, and everything, get it in the bank, or do whatever you tell them, what you're gonna tell them to do. But if you have that connection, you don't have that connection. That's what we get it through the meal. So again, if I'm busy with my first tickle, and I run on it, we have all kinds of ways how to do it. That's what a human being, the behemoth doesn't have that. So he only takes as much as he needs. He only takes what's his, and I can take what's someone else's, and etc. But we have also emotions. And emotions we have through our thoughts. So that is our avodah, which HaKadosh Baruch Hu needs us here, that we should refine them and connect to Him only through the emotions that are refined after I gave the demio.
That's fair.
So they're worried about not having the money or not having the shidduch.
So the more you're worrying about, the more you're messing it up. But that's what the Busha used to say, Ein makom ledaga, yesh makom letfila. What does makom mean? We say by davening, V'ahavta Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavcha, and Rashi says on the place, Shlo yelibchu cholek ala makom. Whenever you're in a makom, and you don't want to try to understand that makom, you're not showing your love to Kadosh Baruch Hu. But when you're in the place and you understand that Kadosh Baruch Hu put you in there to connect you to that place, then automatically, then you show out your love to Kadosh Baruch Hu. What's your love to Kadosh Baruch Hu? Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. He'll be able to give you whatever you need in that place.
So now I come back to my whole question which I asked the whole time. So then why do I have to start doing shtadlus? I guess now.
So again, Kadosh Baruch Hu, that's what we're a human being for. A behemoth also does what he doesn't call it a shtadlus. He's doing it with an instinct, and he doesn't know what he's doing. A person messes it up both ways. Either he's lazy and he doesn't want to do anything, he wants things to be done, or he's overdoing it and thinks that he's doing it. That's our avoid actually. So we call that a shtadlis, but the shtadlis always has to be, the questions of the shtadlis is in the savlunis, and the shtadlis has to be in the doing, has to be in both. But if you're going to do the shtadlis only in doing, without the shtadlis and the savlunis, that's where you mess it up. So there's no way without the shtadlis here. So we like to say, okay, Bonash, you want to run the show, run it. Do what you want, but it doesn't work that way. That's what he said us here. The difference is, I want you to see that I am the boy through that you do something and you see that you cannot control it by yourself. You need me. At the end of the day, all I'm doing is I'm revealing through you. Right, because I can't. But I really. But it's you're not doing me a favor. You have to really see that you cannot do it. Questions?
So
Yeah.
like really in between, like after you get the emotion and you go into Savana, you go into Bittul and you.
So every time a person gives mittul, he's giving a chance. He's letting the procedure become. That means Hashlach al Hashem Yehovchu Aviyada Rabunan. My Hashlach al Hashem Yehovchu. They didn't know what that means to throw everything to Gunshleim. They were schlepping peklach. So some Arab came over. You have throw me your peklach, your packages. I gamlu, my camels, and I'll take them for you. That means from one side you have to make the peklach. The other side, when you feel you cannot schlep them, then the Banishlam says, I say I cannot schlep them. I think there's a famous mushal. Someone came up after 120, and he saw his whole life, a film of his whole life, and it was four footsteps going. And so there must be somebody going along with him all the time. But after in the hard times, there was 2 footsteps. So the Banishlam, why do you leave me in the hard times? With the I leave you, I put you on my shoulders. That's the whole of it, yeah.
Usually when the challenges arise, it's 50% could be in a setting of another person. Let's say, the wife or the children,
right.
And then you have to use the meal as a freeze.
So
but you haven't refined it yet. So you're still sitting with the resentment, even if if you're being savlanut and quiet, you're still sitting with it because you haven't refined it. How do you reach that point of refining it to be okay with that? What the Rebbe sends you, even if it's painful.
So the question is, who comes first, the egg or the chicken? We'll both be right. But once we say that the internal distinction, I forget the word every time, tchusot, you said, really? Tchusot, how do you say it? The senses, the internal sensation starts off before the outer people give me the sensation. So then, the more I'll work on the internal sensation, automatically the outer sensation which the Kodesh Baruch Hu is sending me is to turn on my internal sensation that is from him. But a person can go around all day, he says, as Rusha says, as long as you don't know how to interact with the other person, you're never going to interact with yourself. So the way, if I know if you're in the derech or not in the derech, is we can measure that how you interact with people outside. That means from one side it's much harder to interact, as you're saying, when the sensation comes from somebody outside, abal b'chira as he calls it, gets you off track much faster than the sensations that are in you. But the sensations that are in you is actually also not connecting you only when you do the work with it. The shtadlis, as you call it, not a shtadlis in thinking, a shtadlis of keeping it quiet, and you can't keep it quiet because it's koldoidi doifik pischeli. But as long as you don't hear the koldoidi doifik, So actually, it's the sensations bring the sensations from inside. If it doesn't wake you up, so then we have called doifik from the outside, the dead knocking on my door, in order that I should wake up. So as long as a person is, as the Pilchus Gotza says, that a person could be in an empty room in a cold day, and he's hungry and naked and wet and cold, and he thinks he's the biggest person at home. As long as there's no interaction with anybody outside, so he's busy with himself. And once he has to do, so someone once told me, I'm ready to work on my bittul, but I don't want someone else to work on my bittul. But it just doesn't, you're fooling yourself when you're working on yourself, you're not working with others. So how do I know if I'm working with myself? The measurement is if you're ready to give bittul to other people too. Sagiti Kasha the next. By the way, all questions will not be answered tonight as long as you don't go into a minute at the end of the day. Because you'll always find a leak hole here. But if once we go into a minute, then starts the real. That means because the feelings that a person feels in those sensations sometimes gets him so tired that he just Busha calls it that people get angry at him at the end of the day, and he messed him up his life. He had all kinds of ways to treat them till today, and he took it away from them. But if you, as long as you're going to make from me also a Metzias and not a Sibber, so it's going to mess you up. You have to know everyone has his way how to cope with it, and everyone can help. I can help another person because nobody has his articles that still cope with that the other person has it, but I can teach you the way that I cope with it. You can cope with it. But kids, so that's the way Rashi starts off last week. Fisha nifta yanke vini. Nistemi einayim velibam sheyisur. We always say yanke vini loy meis. Well, he didn't die. Yeah, what is yanke vini? Yanke vini, but actually there's Avram is chesed, Yitzchak is gvir. Yanke was the one teach people how to balance it, which is called teferes. But the balancing is not him. Through whatever he went through, he told him, whenever you have a certain instinct, a certain sense, is a noichi ayredim. I'm there, come down with you. Elchu, but I want to bring you up. Gam El, I want to bring up to a higher space, a higher connection with me, which he couldn't get that connection before that. So Yankov and Yosef, they're both talking about connection. They're both connecting the right and the left and balancing it through the teaching a person how to connect to the Bunshman, relational connected. So that's the way we were able to go down to Mitzrayim. Yankov couldn't go down with Yosef, and Yosef wouldn't be able to go down if he wasn't the son of Yankov. So now, once Yosef was down there, Yankov was able to come down, and as long as Yankov was living, there was no shibud. What was no shibud? Every time you had a certain sense, you, instead of going into emotions, you gave it back to who gave it to. Nifta Yankov Vini. So what is Yankov Vini Nifta? There's no such thing Nifta. Yankov Vini is still around. Why? The legacy they call it is still around. But the question is Yankov Vini was only a gift and not a mahalach. Then once he's not there, you get a sensation, you lose it, and then you go into the emotions and you're off. It's kivish nifta Yankov Vini nistmi einayim, which is the sensations. Velibam, the emotions, went into it chilu the shabdam. They were under the emotions because they missed out to do the work on the sensations.
Maybe that's why the koisha shibud starts all the shvatim.
So koisha shibud comes, as I said before. Koisha shibud, the shibud starts already from the beginning, when you lose the mahalach. And the koisha is only to help you to see that you're meshibud. That means as long as you're busy with your own emotion, you think. We looked in Yiddish, a worm was it's gebitten chrein. Meint a Stück an Süßes, a worm that's in chrein, how do you call it? What? Horseradish, about bitter horseradish. And I think there's nothing sweeter than that. But as I said before, as long as you're not interacting with anyone, you have no idea that you're bitter. And once you have to start interacting, that's what Koish Yashibas was. So we gave the Koich for the Mitzrayim. When did Mitzrayim lose his Koich, which is this parsha of Shmois, that Moshe Rabbeinu brought an inner minute. Just stop there where it starts off the senses and know that Hashem, then you're connecting it, then actually you change the direction of the sensations to understanding and to emotions. Every time emotion came up, you understood it comes from your understanding, comes from your sensations, so it's out of the Shlem. So it's a procedure till we got out of Mitzrayim. Till Kabbalah Satayr. And we were able to get to Kabbalah Satayr, which is higher than they were before Mitzrayim. Which they couldn't get to Kabbalah Satayr without Mitzrayim. So every time a person is wherever he is, it's a bracha for him. Why? Because whatever he's going to take out of there, it will be much higher. That he couldn't get there without that. Shkoyach, I hope to see you next week again. Next week again, Sheva Bruchas again, huh? I'm marrying off a grandson this week on Wednesday, and I think those Sheva Bruchas I must be, but we'll see by next week, Sunday, what happens.
Everything's in Zinnum.
Oh, die ist mich in Zinnum, kann ich dich in Zinnum.
Ich habe in Zinnum reden jeden Tag.
Oh, thank you very much. We'll help us können machen. Gassen da
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming up. Sehr schön. Kol te redden, schkoich meilig. Meilig. Wann ist mal meilig? Meilig.
Oh, Hashem.
Allah, Yishalayim Eid. Schkoich. Chabat Slucha.
Schkoich.
Yes, that's it.